Welcome to Lost Love Mystery, where every story unravels a secret. So, let's dive into another story. The early morning sun peeked over the calm waters of the lake, casting a warm glow on the misty shoreline. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with the crisp mountain air. This yearly fishing trip with my best friend James was a tradition I cherished, a chance to escape the hustle of daily life. "You ready to catch some big ones today, Cody?" James asked, grinning as he assembled his fishing rod. "You know it," I replied, mirroring his excitement. Christina packed us enough snacks to last a week. The mention of my wife brought a smile to my face. Christina was my high school sweetheart, and after years of building a life together, I still felt like the luckiest man alive to have her by my side. "So, how's married life treating you these days?" James asked as we carried our gear towards the small rowboat. I chuckled. "You know how it is. Work, home, repeat. But I wouldn't have it any other way." James shook his head, a hint of envy in his eyes. "Must be nice. After my breakup with Samantha, I'm starting to think the whole relationship thing isn't for me." "Don't say that," I said, clapping him on the shoulder. "You'll find someone special one day. Just gotta be patient." As we pushed off from the shore, the gentle rocking of the boat and the stillness of the lake enveloped us. For a few blissful hours, it was just us, the fishing rods, and the promise of a good catch. The afternoon sun beat down on us. As we lounged on the shore, enjoying a well-deserved break from fishing, James cracked open another beer, and I couldn't help but laugh at his increasingly exaggerated tales of his latest automotive exploits. Suddenly, my phone buzzed in my pocket, startling me from our easy camaraderie. I glanced at the screen and saw a text from our neighbor. "Mrs. Harper, everything okay?" James asked, noticing the slight furrow of my brow. I shook my head, rereading the message. "It's Mrs. Harper. She says there's been a man with a black car hanging around our house a lot since we left for the trip." James let out a low whistle. "That's not creepy at all. You think it's a burglar casing the place?" A flicker of unease stirred within me, but I quickly dismissed it. "Nah, it's probably nothing. Maybe just a solicitor or something." But James wasn't convinced. He took a swig of his beer, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "You sure it's not Christina's secret lover? Maybe she's been waiting for you to go on this trip, so she can have her way with him." I punched his arm, harder than I intended. "Don't even joke about that, man. Christina would never cheat on me." James held up his hands in surrender, but the damage was done. His words had planted a seed of doubt in my mind, one that wouldn't be easily uprooted. The drive back was tense, the silence broken only by the occasional snippets of conversation. James had apologized for his offhand comment, but the unease lingered between us like a thick fog. "Look, Cody," James said, breaking the silence. "I was out of line back there. Christina loves you, and you guys are solid. I'm just bitter after the whole Samantha thing." I forced a smile, but my mind kept drifting back to Mrs. Harper's text. What if there was more to this than a simple misunderstanding? "I know, man," I said, gripping the steering wheel tighter. "But what if there is something going on?" James shot me a sideways glance, his brow furrowed. "You can't be serious, Cody. Christina would never do that to you." But the seed of doubt had taken root, and no amount of reassurance could shake it loose. I needed to see for myself to confront this head-on. "I have to go home," I said, my voice resolute. "I have to know for sure." James opened his mouth to protest, but one look at my determined expression seemed to convince him otherwise. He nodded, his lips pressed into a thin line. The miles ticked by, each passing minute adding to the weight of dread that settled in the pit of my stomach. What if James was right and I was overreacting? But what if he was wrong, and my world was about to come crashing down around me? I gripped the steering wheel tighter, my knuckles turning white. One way or another, I was about to find out the truth. The drive back home felt like an eternity, each mile compounding the dread that weighed heavily in my chest. James remained silent, his knuckles white from gripping the door handle. "I'm sure it's nothing, Cody," he said finally, his voice unconvincing. "Christina loves you, man." I didn't respond. my mind too preoccupied with the endless possibilities of what awaited us. As we pulled into the driveway, the house loomed before us, dark and ominous. "Let's go in through the back," I whispered, my heart pounding in my ears. We crept around the side of the house, careful not to make a sound. Using the spare key, I unlocked the door, and we stepped inside, the darkness enveloping us like a shroud. That's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of muffled laughter and rustling fabric. My blood ran cold as I exchanged a wordless glance with James. Slowly, we made our way towards the living room, our footsteps muffled by the plush carpet. And then I saw them, Christina and a strange man, locked in a passionate embrace on our couch. "No," I breathed, the word catching in my throat. James sprang into action, fumbling for his phone and hitting record. The harsh light from the screen illuminated the scene before us, capturing every sordid detail. Christina gasped, her eyes wide with shock and fear. "Cody, what are you?" But I couldn't speak, couldn't move. All I could do was watch as the life I knew crumbled around me. "You lying bitch." The words tore from my throat, raw and primal. Christina recoiled as if struck, her hands clutching the rumpled fabric of her dress. The man beside her leaped to his feet, his eyes darting towards the door. "Cody, please let me explain," Christina pleaded, her voice trembling. But I was beyond reason, consumed by a white-hot rage that blinded me to everything but the betrayal before my eyes. "Don't you dare," I roared, advancing towards them. "You've been screwing this piece of trash behind my back." The man made a break for the door, but James was quicker. He tackled him to the ground, the phone clattering from his grasp and skidding across the hardwood floor. "I'm sorry, Cody," Christina sobbed, her mascara streaking down her cheeks. "It was a mistake, a horrible mistake." I grabbed her by the shoulders, shaking her violently. "A mistake? You think cheating on me was a mistake?" Her eyes widened in fear, and for a moment, I saw the woman I had fallen in love with all those years ago. But the image was fleeting, replaced by the harsh reality of her betrayal. "Get out," I snarled, releasing her. "Both of you, get the hell out of my house." The early morning light filtered through the curtains, casting a harsh glow on the chaos that surrounded us. Christina sat huddled on the driveway, her belongings strewn around her, like the shattered pieces of our life together. "Cody, please," she begged, her voice hoarse from crying. "Give me another chance. I'll do anything." But her pleas fell on deaf ears. The rage had subsided, replaced by a numbness that settled deep in my bones. The man, Miles, I'd later learn, struggled against James's grip, his face contorted in a mixture of fear and defiance. "You're gonna regret this, you son of a bitch," he spat, his words slurred and venomous. I stepped forward, my fist clenched at my side. "The only thing I regret is not putting you in the hospital." James held him tight as I delivered a few calculated blows, careful to avoid visible injuries and assault charges. Miles crumpled to the ground, clutching his ribs and wheezing for breath. "Now get the hell off my property," I growled. Before I changed my mind, Christina watched in silent horror, her sobs the only sound and the stillness of the morning. As Miles scrambled to his feet and limped away, I turned to face the woman I had once loved more than life itself. "And you," I said, my voice heavy with finality, "if you know what's good for you, you'll disappear. Because if I ever see your face again, I can't be held responsible for what I might do." With a final, anguished cry, Christina gathered her things and fled, leaving me alone in the wreckage of our life together. But I wasn't alone, not really. James stood by my side, a silent pillar of strength and loyalty. "I've got the whole thing on video," he said, his voice low and gravely. "We'll make them pay for what they did to you, Cody. I swear it." And in that moment, consumed by heartbreak and a burning desire for vengeance, I knew that no matter what came next, I would never be alone again. The days that followed were a blur of rage and anguish. I wandered through the house like a ghost, haunted by the memories of the life I had lost. Christina's betrayal had left a gaping wound in my soul, one that festered with every passing moment. Cody, man, you gotta snap out of this, James said, his voice cutting through the haze of my despair. We need to make a plan. I looked up, my eyes hollow and empty. A plan. James nodded, his jaw set in a hard line. Yeah, a plan for revenge. Those two pieces of trash need to pay for what they did to you. At first, the idea seemed absurd, a childish notion born of anger and hurt. But as the days dragged on, the desire for vengeance took root, consuming me from the inside out. You're right, I said finally, my voice steady and resolute. They can't get away with this. We retreated to my home office, poring over Christina's social media accounts with a newfound determination. Using the passwords I knew, we uncovered a trove of damning evidence, explicit texts, steamy photos, and a web of lies that stretched back months. This is it, Cody, James said, his eyes alight with a mixture of triumph and disgust. We've got everything we need to bury them. Fueled by a burning sense of justice, we set to work. Using a VPN to mask our digital footprints, we created an anonymous account and crafted a post that would expose Christina's infidelity to the world. Are you sure about this? James asked, his finger hovering over the post button. I didn't hesitate. Do it. With a few keystrokes, the floodgates opened. We tagged Christina and her family, her friends, and shared the post in every local group we could find. Within hours, it had gone viral, spreading like wildfire through the digital grapevine. As the likes and shares poured in, a twisted sense of satisfaction washed over me. Christina and Miles would soon feel the weight of their actions, the public humiliation they so richly deserved. The fallout was swift and merciless. Christina and Miles, it turned out, were colleagues at a local marketing firm. When the damning evidence of their affair surfaced online, their employer wasted no time in terminating their contracts. Please, Cody, you have to take it down, Christina had pleaded over the phone, her voice thick with tears. We've lost our jobs, our reputations, everything, but her cries fell on deaf ears. I was beyond pity, beyond mercy. You did this to yourselves, I snarled, hanging up on her anguished sobs. Miles, the smooth-talking Lothario, found himself on the receiving end of his own medicine. A quick call to his wife was all it took to shatter his carefully constructed facade of lies. You're a dead man, Mitchell, he had raged, pounding on my front door with wild, desperate eyes. You hear me? Dead. But his threats rang hollow, carrying no weight beyond the impotent fury of a man who had lost everything. With a few choice words, in the threat of making our video evidence public, James and I sent him scurrying back into the shadows, from whence he came. As the dust settled, Christina and Miles found themselves pariahs, outcasts in the very community they had once called home. Friends turned their backs, families disowned them, and the once bright futures they had envisioned crumbled to ash. It was a bitter, hollow victory, but a victory nonetheless. The gentle lapping of the lake's waters was a soothing balm to my wounded soul. As James and I settled into our familiar fishing spot, a month had passed since the explosive aftermath of Christina's betrayal, and the divorce papers had finally been signed and sealed. You know, I never thought I'd see this day, James mused, casting his line into the still waters. Cody Mitchell, a free man again? I managed a wry smile, the first in what felt like an eternity. Yeah, well, you know what they say. When one door closes, another opens. James chuckled, taking a swig from his beer. So, what's next for you, my friend? Gonna hit the town, play the field a little? The thought made my stomach churn. After everything that had happened, the idea of diving back into the dating pool filled me with dread. Nah, man, I said, shaking my head. I think I'm done with all that for a while. Just gonna focus on me, you know? James nodded, a look of understanding passing between us. We had been through hell and back, but we had emerged on the other side, battered, bruised, but still standing as the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and red. I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The storm had passed, the tides had turned, and for the first time in what felt like an eternity, I could breathe again. Christina's face flashed in my mind, her tear-stained cheeks and pleading eyes begging for a second chance. But I pushed the image away, resolute in my decision. That chapter of my life was closed, a painful lesson learned, and a new path forged from the ashes of betrayal. As the first stars began to twinkle in the velvety black sky, I cast my line into the water, ready to embark on the next adventure life had in store.